Welcome to the MEAC Countdown to Kickoff, presented by Coca-Cola.
Welcome, good people, to another week of MEAC Countdown to Kickoff, presented by Coca-Cola here on the MEAC Digital Network, streaming on ESPN+. My name is Mitch Brown, and she is the Jasmine McCoy.
Yes, I am.
Last week, very on-brand way to kick off conference play, wasn't it, Jazz? Some games went as expected, but of course we have a upset to yap about here today.
Yeah, you could say that again, Mitch, because what we know for sure about this conference is that it doesn't take long to figure out who's going to be in the hunt for the race to the Celebration Bowl. But of course, a big, and I mean big, midweek game that we have to talk about here this morning on Kickoff.
And that's coming up right after this quick timeout. Some people are going to stick around. Some people might change the channel, depending on who you were rooting for. South Carolina State, North Carolina Central. That showdown happening on Halloween night. We've got the recap and analysis coming up after this quick break. You are watching Countdown to Kickoff on the MEAC Digital Network, sponsored by Coca-Cola on ESPN+.
Welcome back to the MEAC Countdown to Kickoff, sponsored by Coca-Cola. I'm Jasmine McCoy in studio with Mitch Brown. And listen, we know that a Halloween link-up between South Carolina State and North Carolina Central would have all the ingredients to be the perfect treat.
I like what you did there. This game certainly was one of them. The top two teams in the MEAC playing this early in the conference schedule is poetic, to be honest. For more on the October finale in Orangeburg, we bring in friend of the show, our Emory Hunt. Emory, give us your takeaways from this matchup.
Listen, Mitch, I think we saw the best MEAC game we've seen in quite some time on Thursday night between North Carolina Central and South Carolina State. The Bulldogs winning that ball game 24-21. They were dominating in that ball game, but thanks to two Walker Harris touchdown passes that got North Carolina Central back in that ball game, it made it tightly contested down the stretch. But the player of the game and what we saw most of, my biggest takeaway, Eric Phoenix, the quarterback of South Carolina State, was phenomenal. 26 of 36 passing, 321 yards, and 2 touchdowns via the air. But he also led the Bulldogs in rushing with 13 carries and 60 yards and also a touchdown. So he was the difference maker of the game. It was his big run on third down late in that ball game that kind of forced Chennis Berry to, like, you know what, let's go out and win this ball game on 4th and 1, put his offense back out there on the field, and they took care of business. They got the first down, and they were able to salt that game away. So the biggest takeaway is that we may have a new big dog on the block, and its name is South Carolina State, led by quarterback Eric Phoenix.
Yeah, that's a big win for South Carolina State. Thank you, Emory, for that. Yeah, the Bulldogs, they're going. Chennis Berry making some noise in season 1 as a head coach at South Carolina State. Appreciate you, Emory. We will catch up with you a little later in the show. But, Jazz, the biggest surprise of last week, Norfolk State over Howard. Listen, the Spartans, they came into that game reeling, and it was a homecoming game. So, of course, hosting Howard, they knocked them off by 1 point. They must have had the show on in the locker room, used us as bulletin board material. I don't know.
Yeah. The defending champs took the field as the Howard Bison got off to a great start in this one. A 6-play, 75-yard drive capped off by Jay Sean Scroggins, muscling his way up the middle for 48 yards. Howard got out front 10-0 in this one. But the Spartans, though, they were not phased. That's what homecoming can do for you. Add in a 97-yard kickoff return by Jalen White, his first career kickoff touchdown. The Spartans were feeling it. Norfolk State outscored Howard 21-10 from that point on, but it's Javante Martin with ice in his veins. Check out the sack. That's going to do it. NSU snaps a losing skid to get to 1-1 in MEAC play.
The biggest thing is we play hard, and this team's been fighting for every second on that play clock and beyond, and the ball was eventually going to bounce our way. I just really felt that way. Just the way we compete. We try not to beat ourselves. We try to play disciplined football, and we try to play really hard and execute at a high level. And I thought we did that on Saturday. I thought it gave us a chance to win a football game.
We give up a kickoff return. We miss a field goal. We had all of the opportunities to come away with a win, and just didn't capitalize on them. And therefore, in this type of football, when everybody's playing their best football, you're getting everybody's best shot. Those critical areas could end up, not favoring you. And that's what happened this weekend.
South Carolina State knew it was going to be a short week for them, so they didn't waste any time during their homecoming festivities last Saturday. And you know how you keep the crowd in the game, Jazz?
How?
You score on the first play. From scrimmage, Ianaz Carter receiving the dime from Eric Phoenix. He makes a crib call on the very first play of the game on offense. But check this out. This game ended up being a basketball score.
Uh-oh.
On their first drive, the Hornets scored after Mikal Davis connects with Jordan Hall on a short field. After this point, though, it got out of hand. Back-to-back DeAndre Duhart touchdown runs. The Bulldogs scored 28 unanswered. They win big behind 5 total touchdowns from Phoenix. A big win for the Bulldogs, 69-35 on homecoming.
It's now time to take a look at our MEAC Players of the Week. With no surprise, we were just talking about this guy. Our Offensive Player of the Week is quarterback from South Carolina State, Eric Phoenix. He played great. He was just on fire. He led the South Carolina State team to its most points scored since 2011. I was finishing up high school at that point, Mitch.
Jeez.
Phoenix was unstoppable, 341 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. The young man's got an arm on him, but go ahead and sprinkle in those 30 rushing yards and a touchdown to that total. Big week for Phoenix.
Absolutely. He is making a case for Offensive Player of the Year in the conference. That's for sure. His teammate, Jaden Brockton, is Defensive Player of the Week. Now listen to this. This man had 6 tackles. 4 of them were sacks.
Ooh.
5 tackles for loss in total, and 2 forced fumbles for good measure. This man causing 20-year-olds to stress on the weekend. You're supposed to be relaxing.
I would not want to go up against him.
Yeah, they don't either. Your Rookie of the Week is Delaware State's Mikal Davis. He threw for 2 touchdown passes against SC State, Delaware State's quarterback, and totaled close to 100 yards in that game.
And your Offensive Lineman of the Week was Justice Johnson from Delaware State. He finished the game with a 90% blocking grade. And finally, Norfolk State's Jalen White is your Specialist of the Week after that 97-yard kickoff return for a touchdown to help the Spartans get their homecoming dub.
Some impressive stats,
Yes.
no doubt, for this week. I expect the same here as well when we come back around this time next week. When we come back, let's take a look at this week's games and what we're looking out for as kickoff nears. You are watching Countdown to Kickoff on the MEAC Digital Network on ESPN+. Welcome back in the MEAC Countdown to Kickoff presented by Coca-Cola on the MEAC Digital Network. Let's take a quick look at the updated standings after Thursday night's showdown between North Carolina Central and South Carolina State. Now, Jasmine, a setback for Howard last week in their pursuit to stay with the pack, but they're back at home with Delaware State coming to town.
Yeah, Mitch, it was a very humbling week for both of these teams. Of course, a heartbreaking loss by just a point for Howard, but Delaware State, they got doubled up by the Bulldogs. The question is, who bounces back the best? This mathematically is a do or die situation for Delaware State. You can't fall behind 2 games in conference play with 3 left to go after today. Howard is in the same boat, looking to stay alive. A 1 p.m. kick in the nation's capital. Here's what Coach Larry Scott and Coach Lee Hull had to say coming into this one.
Offensively, they got 2 very, very good, talented running backs. They like to run the football, and also Scroggins, puts another element to the run game because you got to account for him in the run game along with the 2 great running backs they have.
We know we got a football team that's coming in here vying for that, hungry for that. Going to give it the best shot at obtaining that. So each and every week is not going to be any different. With being in MEAC play, that you're going to have to be playing your best football. You're going to have to be focused, dialed in, detailed, and understand what it means to play at an elite high level.
So a must-win situation for both of these schools coming into today.
That's right.
Let's bring in our football expert, Emery Hunt, who joins us before kickoff. Emery, who are some guys that are standing out to you in film that we should be checking out today?
Well, listen, Jasmine, it wouldn't be a game if I didn't bring up a running back to watch, and they have a great one in this matchup for the Hornets in Jaden Sutton. And what he has done so far this season has just been flat out dominating. This is someone that has the speed to take it the distance. He's 5'10", about 230 pounds, but also plays that physical in between the tackles game that allows you to not only get into your 4-minute offense rather quickly, but also churn out those tough yards and inside the red zone, inside the green zone, he's money near the goal line. Now for Howard, you talk about Kenny Gallup and what he has done at safety. From a too-high look, he is someone that can play from the hash to the sideline, shows a great range there. Also has pretty good ball skills to challenge the ball when it's in the air. And when you're asking him to defend a run, he can get down into the alley rather quickly to make a play at or behind the line of scrimmage. So he is someone for me that does a great job on both ends of defense.
All right, appreciate you, Emory. Always good to check in with you. We will see you next week. Enjoy the games, my friends. We know you all are about to do the same at home.
And it's almost kickoff time, 1 p.m. slate for our conference doubleheader. Coming up next, we hear from the coaches set to face off in another game for survival in the race to the Celebration Bowl. MEAC Countdown to Kickoff continues after the break. Welcome back to MEAC Countdown to Kickoff. We're gearing up for a couple of 1 p.m. games today. Our final preview before the games get going is Norfolk State as they hit the road to play at Morgan State. I know we keep saying this, but this is absolutely must-win time for Morgan State. The Bears are 0-1 in conference play.
Yeah, last week I told you it was going to be a defensive battle between MSU and Central. They held the Eagles to 16 points, but again, it's the offense that held the Bears up. They scored just 7 points. They have to get it going this week for them to have a chance. Just 100 passing yards last week. Todd Smith still finding his groove as a youngster at quarterback, but Jason Collins was able to get the ground game going with 72 yards and a touchdown. I think they'll have to lean there, especially as it gets colder around this time of the year.
And meanwhile, Norfolk State is getting weekly production from Kevon King, and special teams showed up last weekend. Jalen White, specialist of the week. I'm curious to see who can move the ball in this game. Both coaches say this game will come down to physicality.
They're a very good, talented football team, and they're going to be tough. They're going to be tough no matter who they play. You watch them against whoever they play, it's like any other game, man. You can't beat yourself. You got to put yourself in the position, and when you get in position, you got to execute. And that's really the message when you're playing against Morgan State. They make you have to play football, and you can ready to go inside this box, and you got to be ready to fight in this box for 60 minutes and beyond.
Once again, got to be physical. Ice up and get physical. Yeah. Coach Odoms is a downhill running type coach. He's want to be physical up front. O-line, D-line play is going to be really important. We're going to have to make sure we play sound special teams. They got a special returner back there, and he showed this past week against Howard. So we must be hitting on all three phases going into this game. My first 2 years in the conference, Coach Odoms and I have had some games down to the wire. The first year as well as last year. So I'm anticipating a very physical football game and a very well coached football game. These guys have had some tough ball games, but they're a good team, and they're going to be here ready to roll come Saturday at 1.
All right, when we come back, we go around the MEAC. It is fall and crossover season, which means we have a few sports to catch you up on in the conference.
And that's not it, because we will make our prediction for today's games and talk keys to the game for each squad to win today. The Countdown to Kickoff show is coming up next on the MEAC Digital Network on ESPN+. Welcome back to Countdown to Kickoff, presented by Coca-Cola on the MEAC Digital Network. We've got football games coming up right here on ESPN Plus in the 1 o'clock hour. But right now, men's and women's cross-country championships are underway on ESPN Plus as well. As always, keep up with updates and coverage on social media. Follow us at MEAC Sports.
And yeah, I just don't miss race days. I love to compete, but actual collegiate men's and women's cross-country runners, they're different.
I never ran, and I won't.
They are different. I'm proud of you. Still, champions will be crowned today in Dover in the men's 8K and women's 5K races. But let's check in on our other MEAC sports in season currently. Let's start with volleyball, Jazz.
Yeah, volleyball is already halfway through the season. So is the path towards the championship, which teams will compete for on November 22nd to the 24th in Dover, Delaware. Some pre-Thanksgiving volleyball. The championship game is set to air on ESPNU at 8 p.m. The Howard Bison have been strong contenders this season, while the reigning MEAC champs Coppin State and Delaware State are not far behind. Get your popcorn ready.
We saw 4 games take place last night as Coppin State took on the Bulldogs of SC State down in Orangeburg. The Bison faced off against the Hornets in Dover, and meanwhile Norfolk State, Maryland, Eastern Shore fought it out on the court in a battle for 4th in the standings. Morgan State and NC Central wrapped up the day's matches down in Durham. Teams hit the court again tomorrow with just 4 more conference matches on the slate before the brackets are announced in mid-November.
Bowling hit the lanes just a few weeks ago, and there are 3 teams ranked in the National 10-Pin Coaches Association polls. North Carolina A&T State ranks in at number 6, the 2024 MEAC Bowling champions. The Maryland Eastern Shore Hawks are 16th, while Delaware State is 23rd. UAB is waiting in the wake to receive some votes. Now, still a lot of bowling season ahead as the ladies are gearing up to compete for the 2025 MEAC Championship in March, the 21st to the 23rd, in my hometown, Raleigh, North Carolina. Now, Mitch, I have to tell you, it's been a while since I've done some bowling, but I have some strikes. You give me that 8-pound ball,
Okay.
and it gets nasty.
Okay. All right, we got to see that. No guardrails, right?
No.
Uh-huh. We'll see about that. What we'll also see about is next week on Monday, November 4th, hoop season has arrived. 15 of the 16 MEAC teams will be tipping into action. Let's take a quick look at the predicted order of finish this season. Let's start with the men. The defending champions, Howard, predicted to finish first. Once again, they received 12 first-place votes. Norfolk State predicted to finish second. North Carolina Central in third. Morgan State rounding out the top 4. Tied for 5th, South Carolina State and Delaware State. And at 7, it's Maryland Eastern Shore, and predicted to finish last, Coppin State. On the women's side, Norfolk State expected to finish first once again, but Howard right there in a deadlock tie with 117 points received as well. They've got a stout team. In third, Coppin State University. At number 4, it's North Carolina Central University, and at 5, it's Morgan State. At 6, it's UMES, University of Maryland Eastern Shore, and at 7, it's Delaware State University, followed by South Carolina State in the 8th slot. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout, but when we come back, you know what time it is. We're going to make those picks, rub the hands, get your popcorn ready, get all the snacks ready. We'll be right back after this quick break on Countdown to Kickoff. Welcome back into MEAC Countdown to Kickoff, powered by Coca-Cola. We're wrapping up here, but just getting started for the day. It's time to go ahead and pick these games. We both went 2-1 last week, and I know you peeked at my notebook.
No, I didn't.
Let's start with Norfolk State and Morgan State. Who you got in this one?
You know, Mitch, I'm going to have to say Norfolk State.
Okay.
In this series between these 2 teams, Norfolk State has a lead 31-13 dating back until their first game in 1965. And Coach Odoms has this team on a roll. That huge win last week is crucial. They're going to have a lot more energy this week. They're going to get themselves the dub.
I'm taking Norfolk State in this game.
Ironic.
I think that win was huge for them against Howard. For us to go against them last week, and it's not just about us, but for them to break that losing streak and get back on track. I think this is the time where they realize, look, everything from earlier in the season, that's from behind us now. Now it's time to go ahead and put this run together to try and get to Atlanta, because they started the season on national TV. They're trying to get back there, and I think they rely on the run game and score enough points in this game. Let's finish up with Delaware State and Howard up in D.C. I'm taking Howard in this one.
Okay.
Del State, their defense just hasn't been able to contain the ground game, and I don't see them doing that against HU. It's a heartbreaking loss for the Bison on the other side of that Norfolk State big win, but it's a must-win for them as well to stay in this race. So I'm taking Howard this week in a big one.
You know, for me, I am going Howard, but I want to give a big shout out to Jaden Sutton of Delaware State. Winston-Salem guy, shout out North Carolina Collection. 3 touchdowns in that last game. He really is leading the offense for Delaware State. But Howard, they need, and I mean need, to bounce back from that homecoming loss 2 weeks ago, then that 1-point loss last week. They got to get the ball rolling. This is how the MEAC is. They are well aware of that, and they will answer back.
All right, the picks are in. It's time to get the kicks in and get kickoff coming up here pretty soon. Look, folks, we appreciate everybody that's tuned in, and shout out to everybody behind the scenes here at the MEAC office that makes this show happen week in and week out. Always appreciate Emory as well. And shout out to Grand Furniture as well, keeping us comfy in these chairs here as well. And of course, always shout out to Coca-Cola. She is the Jasmine McCoy. I am Mitch Brown, folks. We'll see you same time next week. We've got a great slate of games coming up. But for now, that is Countdown to Kickoff here on the MEAC Digital Network. You're watching ESPN+.